Welcome to Soil and Soul, a Catholic Passage podcast. Before beginning today's episode, we give God the first fruits of time and attention by listening to His Word and reflecting upon it with one of our spiritual fathers. May you be blessed with the Lord in your minds, on your lips, and in your hearts to bear the fruit that eternally endures.
This is Father Randy Schoen, pastor of Holy Cross Parish in Sioux City. Today I will be reading and reflecting upon the responsorial psalm, Psalm number 124, from the Mass for Wednesday of the 29th week in Ordinary Time. Psalm 124. Our help is in the name of the Lord. Had not the Lord been with us, let Israel say, had not the Lord been with us when people rose up against us, then would they have swallowed us alive when their fury was inflamed against us. Our help is in the name of the Lord. Then would the waters have overwhelmed us, the torrent would have swept over us. Over us then would have swept the raging waters. Blessed be the Lord who did not leave us a prey to their teeth. Our help is in the name of the Lord. We were rescued like a bird from the fowler's snare. Broken was the snare, and we were freed. Our help is in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth. Our help is in the name of the Lord. Psalm 124 is a song featuring God, the rescuer of the people, a song of thanksgiving. It probably makes reference to God defeating the enemy of chaos at creation. And everything we have, our total existence, all of creation, all the things around us, plus the creation of us, in the case of the psalm, the people of Israel, but for us today, all of us, we are all here because of the work and creation of God. And our help is in the name of the Lord who made all these things. The three verses of Psalm 124 talk about some of the threats that Israel faced, but that God rescued them in every one of those cases. When creation happened, most of the other nations of the world and their accounts of the origin of the world, it's very chaotic. In the story that Israel has, it's one of order. That God orders the universe and everything in it. All of creation, there's an order to it. And God's creation defeats the enemy of chaos. And in the case of the history of Israel, they had many chaotic times in their history, but whenever they placed their faith in the Lord, whenever they recognized that their help is in the name of the Lord, the Creator of heaven and earth, they were saved. They were rescued. That goes for their escape from slavery in Egypt. They escaped through the waters of the Sea of Reeds. Then would the waters have overwhelmed us? The torrent would have swept over us. Over us would have swept the raging waters. But instead, they escaped. Their enemies faced the fury of the sea. They escaped and were able to proceed on the way to the promised land. And the same goes for all the enemies that the Israelites faced throughout much of the rest of the Old Testament. They were rescued like a bird from the fowler's snare. The snare was broken and they were freed. Why? Because they placed their help in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth. Hopefully we can relate that psalm to our lives. There are times of chaos in our lives. God is with us. It is especially during those chaotic times that we need to recognize that our help is in the name of the Lord. And when we place our faith and our hope in the name of the Lord, we can overcome the chaos. We can overcome whatever happens to us here on earth, because our help is in the name of the Lord. We should be thankful for the gift of creation that God has given us. We need to be thankful for the gift of life that God has given to us. We need to be thankful for the things that we have while we are here. All those things are causes of thanksgiving. There may be threats to our happiness. There may be threats to us as individuals. There may be threats to us as a nation. There may be threats to the order of the universe. All those things will continue to be. But in all those instances, in all of those circumstances, the faithful need to recognize that Our help is in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth. Everything in the heavens, everything on earth, everything seen and everything unseen is part of the creation of God. We are responsible for taking part of our creation, the creation that we have been entrusted with. Whenever we are in need of God's help, whenever we have any threats from outside, remember our help is in the name of the Lord. The Lord helped Israel at creation. The Lord helped Israel to be freed from slavery. The Lord helped Israel to enter into the promised land and to be able to combat all the threats that they faced there. That same Lord is with us today in all of our struggles.
Take a moment to recall that one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes forth from the mouth of God. Pause to reflect upon God's word to you today. Did you notice anything captivate your attention or stir in your heart? While reflecting, share your thoughts with God. When you are ready, resume this podcast. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode of Soil and Soul. God bless you and thank you for joining us.
Welcome to Soil and Soul, a new Christian podcast for those who want to invest in yields that count most. 5 days a week during planting and harvest seasons, Soil and Soul looks to help you sow seeds and reap a golden harvest.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Soil and Soul podcast. It's Kayla again with you, and Shelly and I got to talking again, and we decided, you know what, let's just do the podcast. You know, everybody always says like, oh, we should really do that, and we just decided we're actually going to do it. So I have Shelly Greving on again. You'll remember her from a previous episode. She talked about her company, Emerge Marketing, but then she also has Ignite and Be the Light. So if you can remember back to that a few episodes ago. So we decided, you know what, Shelly, I'm going to have you on again, tell your story. And I think you have a really good witness to your conversion to the Catholic faith, but also just how you are living out your faith personally, also within your family, is really cool. And everybody's faith story is actually really cool. So it's just fun to hear other people's stories and connections and making that all go. So I appreciate you coming on again and doing this again with me. This has been so fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Kayla. Thanks for having me. And, what you just said there about everybody's faith story is different. One thing my mom has shared a lot over the course of me growing up it is really like, Shelly, you have a way of seeing it. Like everybody has a faith story. I'm looking for it. I'm listening for it. And I think that is maybe a difference in I'm also willing to share that kind of thing. Whereas, maybe a lot more people are more, it's a personal thing for them and they don't talk about it as much. And that's totally fine. But if you're not looking for it, if you're not looking for way God's working in your life, I'd encourage you to start, because you might be really surprised at how he's working in your life and you may not even realize it. So, that's what's one tip before I get going here. But
That's so good
yeah,
for me because sometimes we all do, get too busy, like focusing on what I did, in my own life and what I'm doing and how I'm raising my kids and my marriage. Like, it's all about me kind of in a sense. And there's so much of it of like, no, what did God actually do in this situation or in your life? So no, that was really good for my own
right.
little conviction.
Right. Well, and another crazy thing, I'm going to tie in 4-H here. 4-H record books are due today. Woohoo! Uh,
Yay. Everybody
for
loves
any other
that.
parents out there, yeah, for any other parents out there that are struggling to keep your kids engaged in 4-H, number one, and then two, to get them to do the record books, hang with it. It is so worth it in terms of lifelong skills and such. But the stick to itness really matters. But what I love
Yes.
about 4-H, so Kayla, I don't know if you knew this about me, but I did work for the Iowa 4-H Foundation and State 4-H office back in the day. Loved that part of my career, and
Okay,
impact
Shelly,
I
hold
got
on.
to make for so many
Hold
kids.
on.
Yeah.
We're going to restart, talk about 4-H again because you cut out of my audio
Okay.
for whatever
Okay.
reason. So pick up again where you talk about 4-H record books being due, and then I'll splice that together.
Okay. I'm also glad we're doing that, Kayla, because I don't want to say record books were due today because
Okay.
obviously
Yeah.
if we're doing that in the future. So,
So
okay.
say,
So,
you can just say like record, like we just had record books due or whatever, however you want to word that again.
yeah. So that reminds me, we're in the midst of 4-H record book season right now. And, 4-H has been so impactful in my life, both being a 4-Her and now being a 4-H mom. I encourage you that if you have not, um, in, um, if you struggle to get your kids to stay involved in 4-H and to do all the things, keep on working at it. Doing record books and being involved in 4-H, it teaches kids really lifelong lessons to stick to it. That stick to itness is something that, I think it's kind of gone by the wayside in some today. And I
Yeah.
really think that that is so important. But tying back 4-H to kind of this faith story is the 4-H motto. When we say for my club, my community, my country, and my world, when you first start that, it's all about how to make yourself better, head, heart, hands, and health, right? Making myself better so that I can then impact my club, so immediate connections, my community, my country, and my world. And I think that instilled in me at such a young age, and I continue to look at that, is with my faith is how I make myself better, but it's not just to make myself better. It's how can I impact those in my family, those in my community, and then all over the world. So that's a little bit about the 4-H motto and how that ties into my life.
I love it. I love it.
But back to my my faith story, that is. So when I was growing up, so I grew up Lutheran. My mom grew up Catholic, a good Catholic from Breda, and my dad was Lutheran. And when they got married and then had me, they had to decide which church to go to. And honestly, they made the decision about where they felt most connected in community. And that's a huge part of church for me, is being connected to that community. Growing up, like our best family friends, my best friends, were all in our church, and we were very connected that way because we spent a lot of time with them. And I just remember there were a lot of pivotal moments there. I won't talk about all of those, but we had a saying on the back wall of the church as you exited that said, "Be bold in your faith as children of God and share the good news of salvation with all people." And
Oh, that's
I didn't,
good.
I mean, yeah, I would read that. I don't know that it really impacted me that much at the time, but I think back to that saying, it is still there on the wall. And I tell you, that is so impactful because for me, growing up Lutheran and now being Catholic, that evangelism is something that I've seen that is not as common in the Catholic faith. It's kind of coming around now, but it's more of a humble approach to your faith, and it's more of an internal thing, not as external as kind of the evangelical Lutheran church, right?
Sure.
So one thing that when I decided to become Catholic, my dad mentioned to me, just don't forget your roots. And to me, that was don't forget to share the good news of salvation with all people.
Oh,
And
I love
so,
that.
okay, fast. Yeah, yeah. So I think about that in all that I do. So as I went to college, I was like, okay, I'm going to college now. I need to go to church and all the things. And so I would go to the Lutheran church, and all my friends happened to be Catholic. So they would all go to the Catholic church, and I would go to the Lutheran church, and I would sit there by myself, and like I would just bawl. And it was like the most beautiful service. Loved the music and all the things. It reminded me of like church at camp growing up. And so I loved the music, loved all the things, but I like sat there by myself, and I would just be so sad that I missed my family, missed my church community, and I would love coming back to my church community, because I knew they were there for me. And still to this day, when I go back to my home church in Sheraton, I love, love, love connecting with all of the people who continue to follow along my family's journey, and to connect with them because we are connected on a deeper level through our faith. And so while I have become Catholic and totally believe in that, I think a big part of church in general is that sense of community. And although I did during college quit going to church because I felt so alone and I wasn't feeling the same thing. But the cool thing is I felt like God was still with me during that time. And even though I had become kind of disconnected with my faith during those college years, I think that happens. And everybody's journey is a little bit different. And if people who know me now and hear me talk about my faith, they're like, "Oh, she just grew up with a, great background and she's so connected and whatever." You can talk the talk, but really, I've faced a lot of really tough times, and it was leaning into my faith that really helped me get through those times. And I feel like that's my calling, is to help others do the same.
I love it. And just because, sometimes it's the outward appearance that, frustrates us about, if when other people maybe they actually make the comment, or we can just pick up on that vibe of what maybe they're thinking. But that interior, like, you never know what people are going through and their struggles and whatnot. And so the interior life is so important. And if we lose that interior life, I feel like then what do we have for the exterior? And I'm so glad that, like, that maybe, yeah, you weren't showing it on the outside or this or that, but your interior life was impacted, and you were going through things just like everybody goes through things, but that you just kept your faith, and that you knew that if nothing else, if I didn't have the support of these people or what have you, that I do have the support of God, and that he will never abandon me.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So fast forward in my fourth year of college, as part of the graphic design program, we study abroad in Rome. Well, I was kind of naive and, more focused on having fun in college, and going on a trip to Rome sounded pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it's funny.
Hated art history. I got like C's in art history. It was terrible. I'm like, what am I doing going to Rome? And the graphic design program at Iowa State is very different in that it's not like you go and you take one or two classes. You take a full load of classes and all your professors go over there with you. So it was really intense
Wow.
working over there, learning Italian, doing all the things. But like I said in that last episode, I lived 3 blocks from the Vatican. Sorry, but I didn't even know what the Vatican was. um, yeah, when we first got there, I stumbled upon the Roman Forum, and I'm like, what's all this rock stuff for? I was like so naive. It was terrible. But I got to take, I think, 2 or 3 art history classes as part of our classes in Rome. And we went into more churches and learned more about the Catholic faith than I ever even knew was possible. So learning about how art and the history of the church and all that was so incredible. And my roommate, so actually I had 8 roommates. One of them was a very devout Catholic and would go to church every Sunday in Rome. And she would go by herself because nobody else was Catholic and nobody else really valued doing that. And so then I started going with her because I was like, well, it'd be kind of cool to see how this is. And I had been to the Catholic church several times, with my mom's side of the family and things like that. And so, and again, I was kind of feeling lonely, and I figured she was probably feeling lonely too, doing this all by herself. And so we'd go to church, all the things. Well, then we took a trip to Assisi. And so this was a school trip. The whole class went, and we went and saw the church where St. Francis of Assisi is buried underneath the church. And so since this time, so at that time, I'm going to tell you how it went and then what I know now.
Okay.
So at the time, I didn't know anything about Assisi. I didn't know about St. Francis of Assisi. I thought it was crazy to pray to saints and all the things. So I was there walking around, seeing all the things, and I saw this smaller church, and then we saw this big church, and we walked into the church, and it was very plain Jane. Mind you, I had been in Rome for the past 2 to 3 months, and I'd seen incredible, impressive churches with all of the decorations and marble and gold and all the things. And I go into this church, and it's very simple. I'm like, that's weird. Okay, Jesus hanging on the cross, seen that before, so imagine a college student thinking this, right? So we start to go to the basement, which is where St. Francis is buried. And everyone is bawling. And I'm like, what is going on here? Why are all these people crying? And then I find myself crying. And I'm like, I don't even know why I'm crying right now. I
Oh
don't know what's going
gosh.
on. and it was absolutely incredible. It's just dirt floor down there. It wasn't at the time, at least, anything impressive. Very simple. And then I went up in the church and they had like, I don't know, a little pamphlet or something about St. Francis of Assisi, and it told St. Francis's story, how, he was very connected to the animals. And when you walk out into this little town of Assisi, it's like on the top of a small mountain, if you will, and it oversees like lower area of villages and stuff. But you're like walking on the ridges of this beautiful, beautiful land. It's just rural, nothing special, nothing out outlandish, and there's birds and other animals just kind of roaming around. Well, as I'm reading this, it's telling about St. Francis and his connection to the animals and the land and all that, and he kept feeling the call to build a bigger church. So he first built a church, and then kept feeling the call to build a bigger church. So then that's what he created, was the church I was in as I'm reading this. I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting and neat and such. But then he continued to feel the call that it wasn't a physical building, it was building a bigger church through the people.
Hmm.
And it was that point that I had this conversion. And I can't even explain it. It gives me goosebumps right now talking about it. From there, I went by myself out on this ridge and just like walked way out. It was all green along this ridge by myself. And from that point forward, I felt like I had the confidence in me that, like I said, I struggled being at church by myself. I have no problem going to church by myself now. I feel like it's between me and God. And yes, I'm in community and I love to go to a variety of churches now. But now I know that God brought me here and for a purpose. And it wasn't just for me to be in the church, but for me to be in connection with people. And I'm like, whoa, that that's big, God. Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't know what you have plans for me for, but like that, I knew from that point forward I was going to be Catholic. And I'm thinking to myself, Shelly, I have no idea how you're going to break this to your dad, but you're going to tell him. So fast forward just a little bit, we go back to Rome, and so my whole family came and visited the Christmas, like over Christmas break during the last, 10 days or so that I was in Rome. So we were there. I took him to all the churches. My dad's like, oh my gosh, I've never been in so many Catholic churches in my life. This is insane. We went to St. Peter's, all the things. We went up to Venice. We did all the touring. Well, we went to midnight mass at St. Peter's and we got there 6 hours early. And when we were standing in St. Peter's Square waiting to be let into St. Peter's Basilica, um, we could hear kind of the voices and tongues of all of these different Christmas songs in all different languages. It was like the
Oh,
most
that's,
incredible, moving experience ever.
yeah.
Um, and my parents felt it too. Like you could just feel that you were in community. And so like all the angels and saints, like that was there. We could feel it.
Oh
It was
my
so incredible.
gosh.
Yeah. And so I should also back up. Mother Teresa was canonized while I was there. No, the beatification. Her beatification was while I was there. I had no idea what that meant. I went to it. I walked up there. I saw all these people. I'm like, whatever this is, right? So naive. But I think, we're called to live our faith like children, naive, open, willing to let the Spirit talk to us however we should be. That's how I was when I was in Rome. I had no clue. I was so naive. I didn't have a clue what these things were. But God was able to work through me because of that, which was so cool. So back to midnight mass. So we got seated in the 16th row. Like
Oh my
this is like
gosh.
up front, um, Pope John Paul II was the Pope at the time, and he was failing in his health. But he was still there. He rode on the Pope Mobile up. I had seen him multiple times while we were there. We would get things blessed and be in, like multiple times with the Pope. That's just insane. So we're there. I feel all the things. We go home, and when we're home, I tell my dad, I'm like, Dad, I'm gonna become Catholic. And he's like, whoa, that must have had a big impact on you. Okay. Well, just don't forget where you came from. And that was kind of it. And I can't say that that was easy for him, but I think he saw what happened to me while I was there and the result of that and the experience of that. And he's like, I think she's just got to trust it, I guess.
But also,
I'll
like,
make,
I love
yeah.
that you still had that, like, you still had support that,
Yeah.
you know, he really trusted you, that you weren't making, you know, a huge rash decision, or, you know, like it was thought out, and it came from a place, like a place of love, you know?
Yeah. Well, I couldn't help it. Like this all happened to me, like it was
Yeah.
all part of the plan that I never knew. Um, so I get back, and within the first week of school, so while I was there, I prayed about lots of different things. And one of them was that I hope I meet somebody that I'll marry because, I was in graphic design. I like to go out to the bars. And I was like, this isn't really the best place to meet people, right?
Right.
Lifelong choices, trying to speak some common sense into myself. But anyways, I prayed about that a lot while I was over there because I'm like, okay, Shelly, your life's starting. You better start getting your act together. So I get back and I'm in an entrepreneurial studies class, and I just so happen to sit next to John. Well, as we start talking, I ask him where he's from, and he says he's from Carroll. And I'm like, yeah, right. Are you from Carroll? Are you from a small town around Carroll? Because from my experience, nobody's actually from Carroll. They're from all these small towns. My mom's from Breda, so like I could
Yep.
say that and poke fun and such. But he's like, yeah, well, I guess you're right. I'm from Willie, in the Willie and Dedham area. So yeah, you're right. Anyways, that obviously turned into us getting married. Long story short. But that next week, um, I happened to go to church with all my friends. So I told you all my friends, girlfriends at college were Catholic and would all always go to church together. I started going to church with them when I got back, and it just so happened that Sunday after I happened to sit next to John in class, that him and all of his friends also went to church. I was like, whoa, this is a sign. For any of you who know Gravings and the Duppides, John's mom and dad, they're very devout Catholics. And it's very, very much part of their lives, and they're willing to talk about it and all the things. And little did I know at the time, me poking fun at this, tall guy sitting next to me in class would turn into being a big part of my faith too, and us sharing that together. So yeah, pretty cool.
It is so cool. God's
Yeah,
funny like
I
that.
can tell a lot more about that, but we gotta keep the story moving.
Yep.
So fast forward, so John goes to vet school. For any of you know anything about vet school, it's very difficult to get in, very difficult to get back in. And we went through some really trying times. We got married in June, found out we were pregnant with Olivia in October. That wasn't part of the plan. Oh, I guess I should mention, when we had our pre-Cana classes, so the classes to prepare to get married, we actually did them both in the Lutheran church and the Catholic church. We got married in my home church, but got it blessed by both the Des Moines Diocese and Sioux City Diocese. That's what you do. But it was very important for me because I was also going through the RCIA process at the time, but hadn't actually become Catholic yet. That I wanted that to be a big part of our faith and uh, what we know and do in our faith. So anyway, so as we're meeting with my pastor from our Lutheran church, he's like, well, tell me your guys' plans. And, of course, I'm a planner. I have it all planned out. And I'm like, this is what's going to happen. And he's going to go to vet school. And then after vet school, we're going to decide where we're going to move. And then I'm going to have a baby. And then we're going to start our careers. And this is how life's going to go. And he was like, just know that God may have different plans for your life. I hope you're ready for that. And I laughed at him. I'm like, yeah, I got it all figured out, right? Like a typical, 20-year-old thinks, I got life figured out. I'm just going to do what I do. Well, he was right. God did have different plans for us every step of the way. I just didn't want to listen to him because, that's how my bold Germanness is. Yeah, so I get pregnant with Olivia. Shortly after that, John is no longer in vet school. That's a really hard time in our lives where, I'm working for a nonprofit. He's having to find a different job. We have a baby. We're living in a trailer park. But those were the days. Like, I freaking look back at my life and love, love, love that part of my life. It was so simple. It was
Yeah.
so like grassroots, not busy running around doing all the things that we are today. I wish I would have embraced that more at the time. I think I did at the time, but it is what it is. But prayed to God every single day, and John got back into vet school. He's an incredible veterinarian now, and it's just God had different plans for us. It gave me 3 more years in Ames that I wouldn't have had otherwise, and so that was awesome. So fast forward, we moved to DeWitt when he graduates vet school and put down roots there. I'm so excited about. So DeWitt's in eastern Iowa. We don't have much for family there. John's family's in Carroll County, mine's in southern Iowa. We have a few family members like within an hour of us, but really not a lot. And so by this point, we have 2, and then we had our 3rd child while we were in DeWitt. And I'm involved in the community and I'm doing all the things that I love. And 2 years in, John says, "Hey, Shelly, I got recruited to go move back home. Um, I have another year to serve out my contract here, and then we're going to be moving. But you can't tell anyone, including your family." I'm like, "What?"
Oh
And this
gosh.
was a bomb. This was a bomb. I was living my best life, loving everything that I was doing. And I was like, "What? We're going to move to somewhere else again." I put this in quotation marks. "I've been putting my life on hold so that you can get your act together and become this veterinarian, all this. And now finally I'm happy and living life. And now we're going to move." What? I was very angry, to be honest. And, it was a really rough part of our life. Um, and so that was like in May or June. And obviously I've told you, like, my faith has been a big part of who I am and what I do. And so we go to church every Sunday and do all the things. And this was a bomb. And I was like, "I'm not moving. I'm not doing this. I don't want to move again. I'm living my best life here. I don't want to go." So for the next 6 months, let me see. I'm trying to get my timing right here. Anyway, I don't know if these dates match up. It's been a while. I'm getting old. Can't remember. But anyways, for the next 6 months, I literally prayed about this every single day and went to church every single Sunday. And I was like, "I don't even know what to do. I don't even know what to think. God, tell me what I need to know." And I listened to every reading, every gospel reading, everything. I'm like, none of this is working. And we'd go to other churches. I remember like 2 churches that we had gone to because we traveled a lot. Um, 2 very prominent ones. When I was like walking in there, I was like, "Shelly, this is the time. God's going to tell you this time what it is." And I don't even remember what was said that day, but whatever. I listen, and it started to be like, just listen, just keep your ears open. Like I said, I don't even remember the gospel reading, but something about like, be aware or be alert or be ready. And I'm like, "Okay, whatever. Here I am. I'm ready."
I'm ready to
So
not move. So
yeah, I'm like, "I got this all. I don't think I need to move," all the things. So then it happened to be our anniversary day. So June 2nd is our anniversary. And I had been running, and I'm not one to work out a lot, but while I was in DeWitt, I got a hold of my workout routines, and I found a group of people I was working out with. It was super awesome. And I had planned I was going to run a half marathon with my sisters. My sisters are runners. I am definitely not. But I was like, "I can train for this. I can do this." So as I'm on my run that morning of June 2nd, I saw a lot of cardinals, which I do. And, and so I'm thinking of my grandparents and things like that. And I kept having the saying, "For I have greater plans for you, says the Lord," going through my head. I'm like, "What in the heck?" And I'm thinking to myself, "God, I'm already planning on running a half marathon. What more do you want from me? Like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, what else do you need from me?" And I'm getting, a little feisty here. And I get home, and John's getting ready for work, and, I'm getting ready too. And, my hair's all wet, and he's brushing his teeth out in the sunroom of all things. It's like 2 rooms away from our bedroom. I'm like, "What in the heck are you doing?" He was like, "Shelly, there's a turtle out here." And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" And so I look out there. Sure as shit, there, there is a turtle that's like a foot and a half in diameter, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what in the heck? It's totally covered in mud, and we're in the middle of town. I'm like, what is this turtle doing in the backyard? I was like, oh my gosh, we got to go look at this. And I'm not like into turtles or anything at this point. And so I'm like, let's go out there. Let's go see. And we go out there. Sure enough, this turtle's out there. And as John and I are walking back through the wet grass, he's like, oh, I think it's an omen. I was like, what? Like slow and steady will win the race or what? And he was like, didn't say anything. I'm like, or watch out, or a snapper might bite you in the ass. And he was like, well, I was trying to think of something kinder than that. And I was like, well, you didn't say anything to the first time. And so I'm like, this guy just annoys the crap out of me. And I'm like, Shelly, be nice to him. It's your anniversary, be kind. All the things. You can just imagine. I mean, think
Yep.
about all the things that go through your head in the day and, okay, whatever that is. And he's like, oh, maybe we need to look this up. So he looks up this song. You guys need to YouTube it. It's like the dumbest song ever. Shelly the Sea Turtle.
Oh
And he
my
looks this up. Okay,
gosh.
so by this point, we had gotten the kids, brought the kids out there. The kids are looking at it, and they play this video on YouTube on his phone, and it's this guy standing in a bathtub, not a bathtub, a baby pool. Standing in a baby pool outside, playing his guitar, singing Shelly the Sea Turtle. It's like so dumb, but it is like so catchy. And he's just laughing. And this is so John. Like anything's get serious or deep, we're gonna lighten the situation. This is like a Graving trait.
Yep.
They just, like to lighten the situation a little bit. And I'm like rolling my eyes. I'm like, this is so dumb. I'm going to work. Well, so that day later at work, so I had been like trying to come to terms with the fact that I'm going to be moving in 6 months, literally 6 months, and I'm out of here. And so I'm like, okay, this is what's going to happen and whatnot. So, um, I go to work and I had a call scheduled with my friend Samantha. Samantha owns a marketing company out of Ames. And I was like, I should just talk to her about, like what it's like to start a business. And maybe I need to think about this. And maybe I need to be open to this. Fast forward, she tells all about her business and how she started Zayo 525 and how she leaned into her faith. And Zayo means to, or no, I don't know what Zayo means. But anyways, 525 stands for Galatians 525. And Galatians 525 says, if we must walk in the Lord, oh my gosh, I'm totally forgetting. Look it up, Galatians 525. But it says something about walking with the Lord. And I'm like, I am not one who walks. In my mind, I'm like, I'm not one who walks. I'm not slow at anything. I'm going to get through life. I'm going to do things fast. And I've got it all under control and figure it out. And then I started connecting the dots. So mind you, I'm sitting at work right now. I have my own office, and I'm like, I just have this conversation with Sam. She tells me all about her business, and then she tells me how she might be thinking about franchising the business and doing all the things, and that this weekend or this coming weekend, which would be the weekend of my birthday, June 11th, that she was doing this retreat with a friend in Clear Lake, and that the kids and I should come along. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. I'm going to go, and we're going to talk about, potentials for business in the future and things. But I'm like, okay, what does this mean? Like walk in life, like what about this turtle? What is this a meaning? What is this? And the for I have greater plans for you, says the Lord, was like in my head. So what do? I Google what is the meaning of a turtle? And that point forward changed my life forever. Um God knew that I'm so bullheaded and think I've got this plan that he's going to have to hit me hard with something for me to actually listen. And he had been telling me all along, my entire life. He gave me signs and all these things all the way. And I had been like, God, I have my heart open to you. Just tell me what you want. Tell me what you need. But he knew that it needed to be in perfect and divine timing. So when I looked up the symbolic meaning of a turtle, and I have translated all of this like in more detail. I'm going to give you kind of the high points, but it's on our blog on emergemarketing.com. That's em3rgemarketing.com. We have a what's the meaning of the turtle or what's with the turtle on the very homepage. Click on that. It'll give you all these details. But what transpired from what I looked up that day, I can't even explain to you. Like, really, how does a turtle relate to God? Well, guess what? God knew that I wouldn't listen, and I needed something that would just smack me right in the face and say, Shelly, listen to me. And so that symbolic meaning of the turtle says, trust your inner vision. The wisdom of the turtle teaches us about determination and staying strong despite the obstacles or distractions we face. The turtle encourages us to listen deeply to our own self-guidance and trust the path we are on. Trust your inner vision. It was also
Ooh,
adapt to new.
ooh.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you each of these. Like with each one of these, it got deeper and deeper, and I was bawling by the end of this. So the second one was adapt to new surroundings. The sea turtle is a very ancient soul living in the seas. While land turtles make their home in the desert and forests, turtles carry their home on their back, figuratively speaking, and feel at ease wherever they are. The sea turtle opens us up to experimenting with new terrains and ideas while maintaining a comfortable self-pace. No matter where our path might lead, the turtle spirit gracefully teaches us to adapt to new surroundings.
Oh gosh. Oh,
OMG.
Shelly.
Shelly, you got to be prepared to move to Manning at this point. It's going to happen, and it's not your choice anymore. Perfect and divine timing is the next. The brilliant message from the turtle is not to push yourself so fast that you make errors and miss opportunities, but rather embrace the wisdom of knowing that all things come in perfect and divine timing, sharing the golden lesson of patience. At this
Oh,
point, I'm like, oh my gosh. My joke was always John is a doctor. Yeah, he's a doctor. He's a veterinarian. He has patience,
ah,
figuratively patience. I don't have patience. I don't need to have patience. John can have patience. Yeah, Shelly, you're going to need to have patience. Protection. The turtle understands the need for protection, self-protection, and protection of those you love. The turtle has a shell that becomes its home. Whenever it's threatened, it retreats to the safety of its shell. This brings symbolic meaning from the turtle that you too can do the same by creating a spiritual shield that is your armor against negativity, harmful influences, and painful memories.
oh
Protection.
man.
For the 5 to 7 years prior to this, maybe more, I was the one that had to carry the full-time job, that had the insurance, that had the payments coming in, that had to be there to protect our family. And talk about trusting that your spiritual shield can help you with that. Holy cow. This was like saying, God's got this. If you think you've got this, nope, I've got this. And let go of harmful influences, painful memories, anything like that. God's going to be there for me. Whoa.
Oh, so good.
Then longevity. The turtles live a very long and fruitful life and teach us the great spiritual significance of taking the very best care of ourselves and having a long life filled with splendid journeys while learning many valuable lessons. And the last one was enjoy the journey. The strong and hardy sea turtle takes vast journeys into the sea, letting the tides take her where they will. She surrenders an infinite trust that all will be okay and she will arrive when and where opportunity will serve her. This is the beautiful lesson of enjoying the journey of your life, trusting in the flow and partaking in the blessings that are bestowed upon the way. In life, there is no absolute destination, but a myriad of journeys. In retreat, gather your inner wisdom and emerge strengthened and prepare to move forward. The turtle spirit guide is there to lead you.
Oh
It's even
man.
hard for me to read today. At the time, those first 2, 3 years, I told that story over and over to everyone who would listen. It was so impactful to me, and trusting that all will be okay. I tell you, as a business owner, it is hard, hard, hard. Um, Trusting that you have a vision, trusting that you could build a business that is successful, starting with nothing and building to where we're at today. I could have never, ever imagined where we would be today 10 years ago. So next year we celebrate our 10-year anniversary of Emerge. And so, like I told you, June 2nd was when I'm reading this. After I finish reading that, I start writing, and I write probably 8 pages. I still have that today of like what this meant to me and what God's plan was for me. And I still look at that on occasion. And from that point forward, I have never looked back. I've had a lot of challenges. I have never once thought this is going to be the end of me, or this is going to be the end of this business, or I need to take a different path. I am so convicted that this is God's plan for me. I didn't like turtles. They were wet, slow. That was not me. Like they're cold-blooded, they're not
Yeah.
colorful. I mean, turtles of the sea, that's a different story, but that's also creating in your imagination, right?
Right.
So from that point forward, never once looked back. But again, still face very difficult times all along the way, but know that God's got this. I go back to Ignite Be the Light and where that's at today. I love what we've created. I have full faith that that's going to come to fruition, but I trust that God's going to tell me when that is supposed to happen. So
Ah, Shelly, it's so
that's,
cool. It's such a
yeah,
cool story. Like I
you
love
can't
hearing
make
about
that
it.
up. Like
No?
that's, that it's just crazy to me how that could happen.
Yeah.
And so
Oh. And then you
it
leaned in on it
continues.
still,
Yes.
I think is huge because I think that
Yeah.
we have, maybe not everybody has bold stories like that and signs
Hmm.
that we're given, but we've all had subtle things if we look back. But I think a huge part of it though too, Shelly, like even though that, yeah, it's all God's will and it's all God's plan, but we still have our own free will that you still didn't have to
Yes.
lean in on that.
Right.
And you really could have bucked John and moving. And oh gosh, who knows where your life could have been, where it would be if you didn't, follow and just kind of surrender all of that to the Lord.
Right.
So it's so
Right.
cool. So cool.
Well, and as I say now, there's sometimes I don't finish this part of the story. For those who don't know me, like I have fully embraced Manning. Absolutely love Manning. I love raising my kids here and the life we've built here and doing business here. I wouldn't choose to do it anywhere else. We live on a farm 7 miles south of town. I call it in the middle of everywhere. It's so peaceful. At that time, I lived in town and I was like, I don't want to move to the country. I'm a people person. Don't put me out in the country. And then I work from home and I don't get to see anybody ever. That's so not the case. And God's got this. So yeah, it's been pretty wild and incredible. And even how I named Emerge. So Emerge came to life on August 26th, I think. I always get this date wrong, so I got to look, but I think August 26th, 2016. So that me being introduced to the turtle was June 2nd. Like you say, kind of bucked it a little bit, but I kind of started doing some freelance work in those next couple months just to kind of dabble. I was still working full time. We had bought our acreage. My mother-in-law was suffering from pancreatic cancer and we'd be coming back on the weekends. Like it was a crazy wild time in terms of all that we had going on. John was on call every third weekend. It was just very intense. We had to fix up the farmhouse that we were moving into. Insane. But through it all, I embraced it. And it wasn't until that August 26th that I decided to start Emerge. And when I was thinking about it, I'm like, okay, I know from a branding perspective, it is really important to like what you call your company and all that. And I'm like, I've
Mhm.
got to lean into this turtle concept, but I don't like turtles, whatever. And I was like, what is it about the turtle that I think makes most sense to identify with Emerge and what we do at Emerge? So with Emerge, I feel like so many times people are comfortable in their shell and they're sitting like they're in their shell. They know their direction. But it's when they stick their neck out and they start moving forward, slow and steady truly does win the race. So slow and steady, accompanied by your faith, starting to stick your neck out there, understanding that through a strategic plan and purpose, pursuing that purpose with a plan and knowing where you're headed and what you want to accomplish, that's what we help people do. So it's that point of emerge from your shell that I wanted to lead with and why I called it Emerge Marketing Solutions. And then for those of you that have seen our logo, in the center of our logo, very large, is a number 3. This is me paying tribute to my faith and the fact that I wouldn't be anything without my faith and trust in God. And so it's a play on the triune God, and the center of all we do gives back to the glory of God. So that's why the 3's in there. And, we don't, like I say, I don't tell that story enough today, but that's why it's there. And we lean into our faith and help others as much as they're willing to do so, to do the same.
That's so
So,
cool. I didn't know that. I learned something new about why there's a 3. You want to know why I really thought there was a 3 is because of your kids. I was like, oh,
because I
that's
have three
cool. She
kids, well, that
incorporated
works
them,
too.
but no, like, I mean, which is a fun, like, a little tangent of it because of your kids, you could probably incorporate that in there.
Yeah.
But your main focus wasn't necessarily your kids. So I learned that is actually
Yeah.
is about our
Yeah.
faith.
It's
So cool.
all because of my faith. So, yeah, that, and I mean, it continues to grow. And I think that's one thing I want to leave everyone with. My story is a bold story. It had to be for me to be able to listen to what God was telling me all along. But that's not the case for everyone. But what I encourage you to do is really just start praying to God, even if you don't know what to say. Just say, God, work through me. I don't know what to do. I'm struggling here. I need you in my life. Like I still don't feel comfortable doing public prayer.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me. But because I have a very personal relationship with God and I just treat it like a conversation and God listens to me. So, like I say, I mean, it took me a year, for sure 6 months to be okay with moving, 9 months before I could even talk about it, and a year before we actually moved. And I wouldn't want it any other way. And when we came here, like I was taking my kids out of a Catholic school at the time. And when we moved here, there was like nobody going to church, no families going to church. They were talking about shutting down CCD because they couldn't find any teachers. And I'm like, okay, this is my calling. I have to be here. And kind of fast forward, I became, I taught for a while. I became the DRE for a while. And now I'm teaching confirmation class. Like, what? Who
It's so cool.
qualified me to do this? Guess what? It was God qualified me from the
Yeah.
very beginning.
Yes.
And I think just remember that God loves each and every one of you, whether you have a strong relationship with him or not, but be open to letting him manifest in your life in whatever way that looks. If you don't invite him in, just, back to that saying, seek and you shall find. If you don't seek it, you won't find it. But really lean into your faith and just being open to God talking to you, especially in those quiet moments.
I love it. Oh, that's such a perfect way to end it too. That's so perfect. Shelly, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I think we can all learn little bits and pieces from it. And it's really cool. And I'm so proud of you for leaning in on that and just from there, just exploding with it.
Yes. Well, thanks for
So,
having me on, and
yeah.
I look forward to listening in the future.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us today. Hopefully, your harvest is still progressing well. Maybe you're starting to wrap up or shifting to other field work or what have you. But just remember that we're always doing this for the glory of God.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Soil and Soul, and we hope that it blesses you. Please stay tuned during the week for the other daily shows that we offer as part of this special ministry project we're providing during the peak seasons of planting and harvest. Also, if you'd like to find out more about Catholic Passage, how you might collaborate with us, or even support our mission, please visit us at CatholicPassage.com. Most importantly, you can support us with your prayers. We'll be praying for you. Please pray for us.